All right, just sit back and get ready to have the most fun you ever had with an electronic device. All right, everybody, welcome out to the Get On With It Sports Show. It is Wednesday, January the 22nd, 2023. 4? No, it's 5. Jersey Johnny coming at you with me, as always, another Mr. RadioPete and Mr. Harry Lug Nutz. Say hello, gentlemen.
No, I'm not going to say hello.
All right, don't say hello.
I will say aloha.
Say aloha. Say,
which I think means hello and goodbye, right?
I think it means both, actually. Yeah, I think it means both.
You
used in both instances.
And I say goodbye.
That could be it too. So, how are you, gents, on this fine, frigid evening in the? Well, it's frigid in the Northeast. I don't know how it is in the Midwest.
I'm not in the Midwest. Don't ever insult Denver by fucking calling us the Midwest.
Well, you're not the far West.
We're the West.
You're just.
How is it in?
How is it out west? How is it out west?
It's
You're
actually warmer today than it has been in a long time.
Any bikini skiing going on?
Not in my world, no. If there is, then it's going to be.
In other words, what's
Kramer on a job site?
Have you been bikini skiing though?
No. I've never been skiing.
Yeah. I love the fact that you lived in Denver for almost 22 years, almost 32 years, and you've never gone skiing.
No, I never will.
It's overrated.
It's expensive, and it's
Well, it's expensive the first time because you got to get everything, but then once you have everything, it's a little cheaper.
Nah, it's expensive.
I don't know. Lift tickets are pretty.
Time is critical, and I'd have to get a whole new wardrobe.
Do you though?
I got to start wearing a vest and drinking kombucha.
Yeah, that's the thing, John.
Either that, or I got to get a flat brim and start.
I would love to see him skiing at Copper Mountain in what he wears on stage with Log.
Well, I would do that, but it's look. I don't need to pay money to put myself in danger. Have you lived
There's other ways to hurt yourself.
There's cheaper ways to hurt yourself. Yeah.
Our healthcare system is not really the best.
No, not so much.
No.
And it's
skiing
worse.
Although skiing in Denver is much different than skiing here on the East Coast.
Of course,
that is a much. That's like actually skiing here on the East Coast. It's like, how much can you sketch over the ice?
Yes,
and not fall down.
Yes.
So
people in the Northeast have to realize that you're not really skiing. And people here in Denver have to realize that that's not fucking pizza. It's fine. Everybody has their thing.
Yeah, that's that's interesting trade-off.
Yeah, I guess you could look at it that way. That's true. So, anyway, I'm trying to put something up here. It's not getting here. Hold on 1 second. I think it's going here. Is it? Hold on.
Maybe not. By the way, folks, this is our second show with Restream. Second show since this departure from StreamYard, and we're hoping to move somewhere else.
John was having problems in his stream. So.
I'm having problems. I've been having problems with my stream for a while now. So
I got the little.
Yeah.
If you need a little help.
Please don't tell me we're going to be counting pills.
No,
I was promised a new beginning, a new intro.
No.
When we move to this new format, we're gonna have a lot is going to be different. There's going to be.
I'm just saying.
Segment intros. There's going to be a new intro.
Promised jet.
I have help if you have a little issue with your stream.
I may have to take you up.
I knock on wood. I have not had any issue with my stream.
All right. Well,
not that anybody.
If you do, we are now sponsored by Cialis. So,
and it's a rare night where I get up in the middle of the night. I could still make it through the whole night without,
Okay,
so.
you know what?
Well, for some gentlemen, that's the only
knock on wood.
Yeah, for some gentlemen, the only time they can get up is in the morning, if you know what I mean. But
well, yeah.
There you go.
So, I don't have anything for that. I'm sorry.
Anyway, all right.
Go to the gas station for that.
Yeah, you got the gas station boner pills. That's all you need.
Yeah.
All right. We got our. Well, let's kick it off because we got some football to talk about. There's a couple things going on in that world, but let's kick it off with the memes of the week. Really, let's blow through them. There's 3 really cute ones.
Wait, I was promised no fucking memes.
Well, here's the thing.
No fucking memes.
No, 2 weeks ago it was 1.
No, we're done. Next, football.
Meme of the week.
Football. The first.
These
thing
are
we're
good. I
talking about
couldn't
is
decide between these 3.
football.
I'm just gonna put them up really quick.
No, Asian misspelled.
No.
Asian
It's nothing to that. Here we go.
No.
So this is the first one.
Borderline racist.
Here we go. Skinny dicks halfway in.
Just no.
All right. I thought that was interesting. This one is good too. I need your help to see which is the best. It's the one that's going to go online. The other one is help wanted, free Viagra for people willing to work hard.
All right. Yeah. So
Somebody
this is a for real. Which meme is
Yeah.
for real? The
These-
most for real.
Most for real, exactly. And then this last one, of course, is Beaver Liquors at the Whistling Cooler in Saratoga South. The best damn liquor prices around.
Ooh,
What-
All right.
those are all
Which-
good
So are we
choices.
starting with pro football or college football?
Which of those 3 goes up on the Facebook page? That's what
None.
I need from you guys.
I would go with Viagra.
I think that's the best one, all right?
Yeah.
I couldn't decide.
I mean, there's a certain subtlety
We
to
could
it.
get a sponsorship by Blue Chew. Blue Chew.
What if we get
Blue Chew.
sponsored by Skinny Dicks?
You got to get up to get
Or get
down.
sponsored by Skinny
Blue
Dicks.
Chew. Skinny Dicks and Blue Chew.
Skinny dicks halfway in. I thought that was pretty funny. That's why I couldn't tell between them. So anyway, so I think it is. We're gonna go with this one. This one will be posted on the Facebook page.
People are good at it.
Yeah,
Help
I wouldn't
wanted,
mind a
free Viagra for
I
people
wouldn't
willing
mind
to
a
work
Viagra sponsorship. Why not?
What the hell? I know. All right.
All right. Can we get off Facebook too?
We can. That's not good for you anymore. Anyway,
It's a little tough.
Facebook's dying. Facebook's dying.
yeah,
It's
well.
only for old farts like us now.
Well, I mean, who watches us? 21-year-olds? Come on,
Facebook is for people with
Yeah,
red hats that don't have a Bills logo on them.
that's true. Well, I figured if I was going during the playoffs get a chance to wear this on this show, this I spoke with the refs, the other day, and it seems like this is probably going to be the only show I get to wear this.
This is the last time.
Yes,
at
You
least till
can, you
next
can wear it
season.
whenever you want.
All right.
There doesn't have to be a theme to what you wear.
Well, no.
How many shows have we done? You've worn. I could. They all look the same. They're either
Yeah.
red or blue or white.
That's true.
With
Well, but Johnny wants
who's
to wear the
25 on the Bills? Thurman Thomas.
No, LaShawn McCoy, actually. This was
Oh,
LaShawn McCoy.
gosh.
Yeah.
He wants to fly the colors of a winner, and
I
there's
do.
only one more chance to do that.
Hopefully not.
Well, is this a transition? Are we talking about the NFL?
Yes, we are.
Well,
Okay,
I'm
good.
trying to get
You
there.
just caught
guys.
it, right? You
Good,
just caught
yes.
it, right? Okay.
Excellent.
Yeah, right.
So here's the
trying to
thing:
get
should the Bills feel good about that win?
Yeah, they won. That's
Yeah.
all that matters.
The Bills should
That's
feel
all that matters.
The Bills should feel better about that win than the Chiefs should about theirs. That's all I have to say.
Well, I don't know about that. Here's
It's
the thing:
win or
I
go
think,
home, they won. And
I don't think the Bills are playing up to their potential. I really don't. Now, having said that,
a little shaky, no question.
that was the Super Bowl. Those were the 2 best teams in the AFC, I think, in the NFL. I think actually, and that's.
I think you're right. I
Yeah.
do think you're right. I think either the. I mean,
And Baltimore seems to have a dark black cloud over their head for whatever reason. I don't know. Maybe because they're a fucking annoying, shitty organization. That could have something to do with it. Maybe it's the ghost of Ray Lewis. It's murderers. I don't know. But the real issue is that they had a chance to put the Ravens away, a really good Ravens team who was favored on the road. And I just walk away from that going, you know what? The Ravens lost that game. The Bills didn't win it. Is that going to have any impact on them having to go on the road now where they're to play Kansas City 0-3 in the last 3 matchups with them in the playoffs?
Mm-hmm.
I don't know. Everything was leading up to some really good juju and momentum. The Bills could cleanly put away the Ravens, and they just let them right back in that game. They have a minute and 18 seconds left. They got the ball with 2 minutes and 30 seconds, and it took them less than a minute to march down the field and score. Lamar Jackson's a great quarterback, but look, it just tells me if it's a close game, the Bills can't stop an elite team from scoring. They can't.
Well,
and their offense became dormant in the second half.
Well, that's yeah. Maybe they can't stop them with a minute and 30 seconds or 13 or whatever it was. But that's true of a lot of teams in the NFL.
Why is
But
that?
this-
That's a whole other podcast.
Well, because of the way the NFL is set up to favor offense and the way the rules favor receivers and all that sort of
100%,
stuff.
100%.
You know,
100%.
but look, this was, I mean, I'm not as surprised that this was a close game. I agree with you. The Bills got conservative, as so many teams do, and that hurt them in the end. But look what else happened. The Ravens had their kind of typical game, or Lamar Jackson had his kind of typical game, had a couple of turnovers, semi to completely, oh, I won't say completely, but, you know, kind of choked in a big situation once again.
You think Jackson
And
choked?
well, he fumbled and he threw a pick.
I think he was. I don't think he was
having a good game.
I don't think he was perfect, but I didn't think. I
No,
don't blame this loss on him. I don't blame it on anybody.
Not entirely, no. But he made mistakes that you can't make in those kind of games.
I mean, the most glowing mistakes are Lamar Jackson's fumble and interception, and Mark Andrews missing the 2-point conversion,
and his fumble,
his drop, and his
I thought
fumble.
Andrews' fumble was more impactful on the game.
Yeah, you can put it as much on Andrews, but Jackson also had a couple of really bad misfires.
I agree, but and that's one thing. As I saw him striving to get into the end zone, thinking about lateraling the ball in the fourth quarter.
Yeah.
Josh Allen must have somebody screaming in his headset for certain things, because he seems to have gotten better at not making those dumb mistakes.
It's the same thing that all quarterbacks go through when you try and do too much. When it isn't working for the team, you put it on yourself and you try and do too much. We saw that with Sam Darnold.
You know who doesn't make dumb mistakes? Patrick Mahomes.
Patrick Mahomes doesn't have to, because he knows there's going to be a penalty when he does to bail him out.
You know, I'm all with you. I'm with you on all that stuff. However, there was no chance.
You're talking about Patrick Mahomes, right? That's right.
Yeah,
whatever.
Okay.
But let me just say this: what teams always say, look, we're not looking past this opponent. Certainly in the playoffs, you can't do that when you're at this stage.
Mm-hmm.
I don't think the Bills were taking the Ravens lightly, but
how could they?
You have to. No, they can't. No. But part of their psyche has to be thinking about the Chiefs, because
I don't think so. That's ridiculous. Not if they were playing Pittsburgh, yes. Not the Ravens.
No, I don't think they wanted to do that. I think they can't help it.
Yeah.
Because everything they've done so far this season is leading up to, the goal was, obviously they want to win a Super Bowl, but the real goal is what they're hoping to do against the Chiefs, which is win the conference championship. That has to be in your mind when you've lost 3 out of the last 4 to them, or 3 in a row, or whatever it is. Mm-hmm. So it's I think it's impossible to completely get away from that.
Right.
Not that they're taking the Ravens lightly, but it's in the back of the head a little bit. And they did what all teams do.
The Ravens and Bills were equally matched. I think if you were to really scratch it out on paper, the Ravens are probably a better team on paper.
The Ravens were a 1-point favorite, if I'm not mistaken, which means they were a 4-point favorite, because the Bills were home, so you get 3 points for that. So if the Ravens on the road were 1-point favorite, it's
here's my problem. Here's my problem with the Ravens, is that they seem to disappear for quarters and halves at a time.
Yeah.
How is this team that's so good lose to Cleveland and lose to...
It's a divisional game.
Well, that's bullshit.
I know it is, but it isn't, though.
Yeah, it's just
they're familiar with them.
They should have been at home, but they weren't. And the Bills, sort of lost out on home field advantage too. And Kansas City didn't even have to play the last weekend of the year. So here's my take: is I think Kansas City and the Bills are as equally matched as the Bills and the Ravens were.
Mm-hmm.
I
don't know about that, because I got to be honest with you. The Bills only have 53 players on the team.
I know. Here we go.
The Ravens have 60.
Fucking podcast.
The Ravens have 60.
It's tired. I get it. We don't have to talk about it. It's tired.
It's true, though.
It's tired, though.
Tired, but true.
There was nothing glaring. There was horrible calls on both sides.
I'm not even talking about the game against the Astros.
So, but my point being is that last year when they played, it came down to a missed field goal.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
So I think the Bills are gonna. I think the Chiefs have a better kicking game. I don't trust this Bills kicker again in a clutch situation. I don't know. I would like to think that the Bills should beat the Chiefs, but I'm not. I can't convince myself. As big of a game as that was, and they won. They came out ahead. There was something about it that felt a little icky. And I don't think it's good. I don't think they have the momentum they wanted having to go on the road now and play the Chiefs. And oh, by the way, the Chiefs, who all their old horses who have been in the stable all year, are finally waking up and playing the best football in the last 12 months. So at home.
Yeah.
I hope the Bills win. The whole country hopes the Bills win, except for Kansas City and Taylor Swift fans.
Mm-hmm.
But I don't know. And
I think just the opposite. I think the Bills are pumped and primed because this is where they have wanted to be.
I hope you're right. I don't think pumped and primed is enough. If you can't get up for, it's not a matter of getting up. It's a matter of executing. And there's just something about this Bills team that I just.
Yeah, but the Bills are not the Steelers. They're not like this mediocre team that made it into the playoffs.
No, they're a very, very good team.
They've been relatively, dominant, or at least as dominant as anyone else in the East, the whole year. So,
they're the 1990s Knicks and Heat, and they're not going to win until they get to play Kansas City without Patrick Mahomes in the playoffs. And it'll still take a 4-point play by Allen Houston to get them past.
Yeah, there we go.
So
I understand what you're saying. It was closer than it should have been. But I don't think this.
And I thought it'd be a good game. I did not like the way they played the second half, and I'm not convinced. Look, I think Dan Campbell got outcoached, and I don't think either coach in that Ravens Buffalo game proved to me that they're even in the same conversation as Andy Reid. That's my takeaway.
I mean, we'll find out on Sunday, right? So.
We will. Again, I think Buffalo has more talent than Kansas City.
I think 100% Buffalo has more talent than Kansas City. The biggest thing that Kansas City has going for them, the biggest three things, is Patrick Mahomes, Andy Reid, and Steve Spagnuolo.
Yeah,
but you can win Super Bowls with those three.
Right, and Kansas City's defense has improved.
I know Chris Jones is amazing. And the defense is good, but offense wise. Buffalo's offense runs circles around Kansas City's offense. If it was just, if everything was equal, there shouldn't be game. I mean,
lots of Super Bowl champions that don't have great offenses.
Hey, that's why we play them on the field and not on
great.
Paper.
Efficient offense with a solid offensive line and a stellar defense.
4 Steelers championships, 2 Cowboy championships, 4 New York Giants championships, 3 Washington Redskins championships, not stellar offenses.
Mm-hmm. Well, I mean, the Giants' offense in the first Super Bowl was pretty up there.
They scored a lot of points.
They did. So,
all right. Well, that's this tired old story. Is the AFC? Everyone's talked about that, and now us too. So let's move on to the exciting part, which is the kid.
Yeah, the kid that I desperately wanted.
The Commodores, baby. The Commodores.
Douche knocker to trade up and get. And apparently, I don't know if you saw the video, and I guess it was part of, I didn't see it on Hard Knocks. I didn't watch every episode.
His kid
said trade up for Jaden Daniels.
I mean, everybody.
You only get one shot at this.
Everybody knew Jaden Daniels was one
Giants don't run the way. Giants don't run the way the Jets.
Well, but they should have, though, in that instance.
Decide what to do.
Here's what Washington did.
His rating was too low on Madden, so he didn't get the gig.
That's what it is, right?
Washington got a new GM. Right, a new coach, a new quarterback.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
so that's what you need to do.
This is a great story. This is one of the greatest stories. No matter how it ends, if it ends with a loss, or whether they go to the Super Bowl, whether they win the Super Bowl or they lose, this is a great story. Something that the NFL really needs, which is to show that new blood can come in and make a difference if you're running things right.
Yeah.
Now, granted, they didn't play in a great division. But they did play with, a team that's pretty good in the Eagles. So it wasn't a lot of other star quality in that division. But
well, I mean, this
is a great story.
It's a great story, and
the division is only one part of the story. You're talking the conference?
I was going to say not the conference, no, the division. He's talking about the division, the Giants and the Cowboys and what they did.
Yeah, I'm talking about getting enough wins to get into the playoffs,
right.
and
So, but I mean, they didn't squeak into the playoffs either. They were what?
12 no, they didn't at all. They didn't at all.
Yeah.
So and how they progressed and the plays they've made and the way Daniels has been able to be wise beyond his years.
Yeah, they did have a lighter schedule though, because their record last year was not really.
You saw signs of it a couple of years ago, actually, with the Commodores, with their defense.
Yep.
And all of these teams have something that is the most important part of making a successful football team. They have somebody, at least one person in their organization, who can pick a fucking offensive lineman in the draft. And can go out and build enough depth at the O-line that their quarterback is not beaten to shit every game. And look, I don't care what you say. Yeah, Saquon Barkley is phenomenal, but he went from, riding in a Ford F-150 with 450,000 miles on it to being escorted by, a Cadillac. And it's a big difference. Look, Daniels is great. He's athletic. He has time. He's a quick decision maker. He gets rid of the ball quickly, but there's never anybody in his face when he's throwing the ball.
Right. Put him on the Giants, and it wouldn't have been the same results this year. No. I'll tell you that.
Right, but he also has the ability to extend the play too.
He does, but he also makes quick decisions and gets rid of the ball. And I think he's young enough that he doesn't know the consequences, and he's talented enough to overcome that. And he's got enough weapons, but I'd rather have an offensive line than 4 great receivers. Give me 2 good receivers and an offensive line.
We've been talking about the demise of the offensive line and the
and
defensive line as well.
I'll tell you the one thing is that Josh Allen gets hit a lot, and he's got a lot of balls where he's got guys just right on him.
Yep.
And if he had that the last couple weeks, it's going to be even worse with Kansas City, because Spagnuolo is going to be able to get pressure on him, because that's the only way you beat him is to get pressure on him. He doesn't have the receiving core that he did 2 or 3 years ago, where there's no option of double teaming their number one. You can do that. I think the running game, Buffalo has to establish the running game, and quite honestly, I think Buffalo needs to score first. Mm-hmm. But in the NFC, I think it's going to be. I think Washington has the ability to get out big on the Eagles, and if there's one weakness with this Eagles team, I don't think their ability to come back from a big deficit is within them.
The key to both the Bills and the Commanders winning their respective games is to getting out to a lead first. I mean, this goes for any team, right? But I mean,
right.
This is kind of
with the Bills, it's time of possession. With the Bills, it's time of possession. With the Commanders, it's make Philly play from behind. Even if it's 3-0 or 10-7, it's still a different mindset,
right?
Than them, being able, because
if they can be up, I mean, this goes for anybody, right? But if they can be up by 2 scores with 5 minutes left, I actually have more faith in the Commanders coming back than Philly coming back.
Well, absolutely. Well, they've proven it.
Yeah.
They have the playmakers to do
plus
it.
Plus, you got the is Hurts hurt? How hurt is he?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, today he said, I'm going to be there Sunday. Well, of course you are. If you have 2 legs, you're going to be there. But how much is it going to affect them?
How much
I don't expect anybody on that team will use it as an excuse.
Right.
But you wonder, whether that's a factor, and especially when you're behind and when you're back and when you're scrambling and when you're throwing.
Mm-hmm.
And, that's when that injury is going to rear up a lot more than if you're just handing the ball off.
Sure. So, absolutely. Anyway. All right. Well,
good games. I don't know. Let's talk about the Lions a little bit.
Let's do that.
Were we right about them with our lack of faith that no one had drafted them in our league until the coin in the freaking 8th spot? I mean, were any of us thinking, they're gonna go to the divisional round and then get out coached and Goff's going to have a terrible game. And
my personal opinion is that of all of Kansas City showed a little bit of it too, but that week off does something. There's something to be said for momentum, and you take a week off at that time of year. Now everybody gets a week off during the year, right? And some people come back from their bye weeks and win a game. And some people come back and lose them. Obviously, it's 50-50, right? That's how they play them. But when it comes down to the playoffs, I think that week off is a detriment more than a luxury. I really, really do. And I've said that before, but I really think it really reared its ugly head with the Lions, because I know now I'm not saying they would have won the game, but they would have been a lot closer to.
So let me ask this question. Let me ask this question. Are they better than they showed and they had a bad game and they lost?
Yes, they
or is this where they are? They're not quite there yet.
I think they were definitely but say were because they're done, were a better team than Washington. Washington had the momentum. Washington had the balls to go in there and do what they did. And I put a lot of that on Jane Daniels. I put a lot of that on Dan Quinn, but Dan Campbell, Jared Goff, these guys, they choked. I know, granted, their injury record was ridiculous this year. If they had every starter they had in game one, I don't think we'd be having this conversation. I think they'd be the favorite to win the Super Bowl, and they would have annihilated Washington on Sunday, or Saturday, whatever.
So they were there. They just didn't perform.
They didn't perform. They lost their momentum with that week off, and they kind of played from behind literally, but they played from behind figuratively too. They were choking. They were nervous. They played nervous. They played like, oh shit. They played not to lose. They didn't play to win. They played not to lose, and it screwed them up.
Yeah,
I really believe that's what happened, and I think
which seems out of place for Campbell.
Absolutely, and I honestly think that
they were still going
I think that
they're going for it on fourth down all the time.
Of course, but the
in my mind,
it is ridiculous. You got there's it's good to be aggressive like that, but
put
not
some
every
points up.
single
Put
time.
3 points up
Put 3 points on the damn board. But
all right, Harry, were they? Sorry, go ahead, John.
No, I was just going to say the injuries definitely affected them, but I think the biggest issue this past weekend in that loss was the week off. I think that really did him in.
Yeah, I don't think it had anything to do with it. Here's the reality with the Lions. They're not a good defensive team.
Sorry, John.
You're wrong.
They're not a good defensive team. And congratulations, you're getting their defensive coordinator, who was 24th last year and 12th this year. They're not a good defensive team.
They're not a good defensive team because they had 77 injuries on the defense.
I agree. So last year they were healthy and they were 24th in the league in defense.
But they still made it to the championship game with that defense.
Let me finish my thought.
Go ahead.
I listened to you for 20 minutes. Let me finish.
I'm shocked he said that.
They're a great offensive team. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
But Jared Goff became Jared Goff of, his LA days. And
Jared Goff
didn't have a perfect game.
From LA.
He didn't have a bad game, but he didn't have a perfect game. He threw a couple of interceptions. They turned the ball over, and there was never a chance that Washington was not going to match them possession for possession. This is the difference between the Commanders and the Bills. The Commanders never let off the gas pedal, ever, ever. And if they needed a field goal, they got it. They just kept going down and putting pressure on the Lions. And from the third quarter on, it just felt like this is over. This is over. It's just they're not going to catch up. They can't, because they can't stop Washington.
Right.
Now, I think the Lions were top two team in the NFC, without a doubt. And if they're healthy, yes, they're a much better team. Okay. But from the second quarter on, okay, the Commanders are playing without their best offensive lineman, which, by the way, it's probably going to rear its head this week. Okay. When you got one of the best guards in all of football who's out for the year now. It's Washington is just that team. Remember the Texans last year?
Yep.
Or was it 2 years ago? Whatever.
Last year.
That's what Washington is. Okay. You could prepare for this team, but you just don't have enough to go on to figure out how to stop them. And I also feel like they're playing schoolyard ball. It's pretty simple when you watch it. And I made a joke that this is the new Hogs, and somebody gave me a vomit emoji. This offensive line was destroying Detroit's front seven, destroying them. So, yes, Jaden Daniels is a big piece of this. But that offensive line controlled the game, and Washington had a balanced attack that I don't know what the time of possession differential was, but I'm assuming Washington won that battle. I think if they could do that again against this Eagles team, I think they got a shot. I just think that they're young enough and have not been here that they don't. The pressure is they're playing with house money. There's nothing to lose. There's nothing to lose. I was
just going to say.
Even when they got to the playoffs, there's nothing to lose.
Well, yes, definitely something to be said about that.
Here's something interesting, and I will leave it at this. There were a couple of bad calls, bad missed field goals away. They squeaked by the Buccaneers.
Right.
So, what would it have been like if the Buccaneers played? What would we be talking about if it was Baker Mayfield right now playing in the NFC Championship game? Very well could have been. I agree. When I said before, I don't think the week off had anything to do with it. It could, but I don't think it's as big a deal as people make it out to. I think for the Lions, it was a blessing because they were able to get a couple guys back that probably would not have been able to play had they not had a week off.
I agree with you 100% there. And I didn't really mean that it is always for every team a detriment. I meant it was that much more for the Lions. But here's the other thing. They got those couple of players back. They got those players back, right? And was it, and I'm not saying this is the case, I'm being hypothetical here, but what if the players that were playing that won 2 weeks before that and the week before that and the week before that played well and won the games, now they're not playing. Yeah, guys that have been out for 7 weeks, 8 weeks.
Right. You're plugging the starters back in, and they don't even get a single game to get back into the rhythm.
Right.
And then they're in, the biggest game of the season at that point. Let me just say,
rule number one in sports: you play your best players.
I get it. I get it. And I would have done the same thing, but that could have been an issue, is all I'm saying.
Yeah, that could be an issue. Let me just say two things. Number one, Harry, what you said about house money. I think this Commanders team, I think a lot of that comes from Daniels. I think they've sort of taken on that outlook. You're right. They don't know the heartbreak of a loss in a championship game or anywhere along in the playoffs. So, and I think we've talked about in the past, sometimes you need to learn that before you can win. That could be a stepping stone that helps you to win in the future. But right now, I think this entire team, like you said, street ball, let's just go play. Let's have fun. Let's play. If we lose, we lose. We don't know what that is like. And I think a lot of that comes from Jaden Daniels and his influence and his attitude.
Right.
That's number one. Number two, one thing I'll say about Detroit and the injuries in the defense, when Dan Hutchinson went down, which was week 6 or something like that, week 7 maybe.
Aiden.
We all said, oh man, this is, how much is this going to hurt them? Are they going to be able to recover? Obviously they can't replace him. And they managed to have the record they have and be the number 1 seed and all that. But now when you get to this point in the playoffs, that's when not having him hurts.
Absolutely. I agree with that.
That's when his absence is magnified for that single game where you've managed to get along without him up till then. So,
right.
And obviously they had a lot of other injuries, but
But on that note, and why what I said might be an argument is whoever is playing in his place, if they didn't have that week off and they had a ramp up game to play in that situation, in that at that level of play in the playoffs, maybe they play better than they did.
You've been out for 2 months. Get in there. It's just it's a divisional game. Go get them, kid.
Exactly.
That could be a tough order. And you wouldn't expect them to play if somebody does come back. You might not necessarily expect them to play as many snaps as they would normally. You're still trying to ramp them up physically as well. So
yeah. I mean,
anyway, so who do we like?
I mean, I would want nothing more than to see the Super Bowl be a repeat of Super Bowl 26. but it's going to be the exact opposite, and we all know that.
For those of you out there who are not nerds, what John is saying is he wants it to be Buffalo and Washington.
Right, but we know damn well
Look,
we know what we knew at the beginning of the season. It's going to be Kansas City and Philadelphia.
I'm not necessarily sure, but I think they're favorites for a reason. Like I've set it up for 2 years now, even before the Eagles got Saquon Barkley. The Eagles are just loaded, and I really do think in this day and age in the NFL, it really comes down to who has a healthier offensive line. And the Eagles have done something, especially with these jumbo formations and the stupid tush push and everything else. They're hard to stop. There's nothing other than Saquon Barkley. There's nothing that jumps out at you offensively for the Eagles. Their defense has improved immensely. I think they're well coached for who they are. I don't think that, I don't think there's a huge coaching differential there. Quinn has obviously proven himself. Hopefully he doesn't have a flashback to his days with the Falcons in the Super Bowl. I think that it's going to get tight in a championship game. And I think the Eagles being at home is going to be an advantage. I think somehow they'll figure out a way to win, but I think it's going to be close. And I would not be surprised if Washington pulled off another upset. I'm rooting for Washington. I just think there's something about this Eagles team. They know how to win ugly. And you know what? Conversely, for the AFC, up until last week, I really would have said, yeah, I think Buffalo is going to win this. But I just don't know. If I had to bet, and I don't want to, I flipped a coin last week with the Ravens and Bills, and I went based on the fact that of past performance in tight situations. And I said Buffalo's slightly better in these situations, and they probably squeak out ahead. And they did. Based on past situations here, Kansas City's better in these situations, and they'll probably squeak out ahead. I hate to admit that. I want it to be Buffalo and Washington. I would love that. But I think that they're both, there's no definitive favorite, I don't think, here. I think that home field probably means a little bit more to Kansas City in the AFC. I don't think Washington cares where they play.
Right. That's true. So,
Johnny?
Like I said, I think that Washington can beat Philly. I think that Buffalo can beat Kansas City.
Sure. Both teams have beaten them already this year.
Right. I would like to see that happen. I would like, as Harry said, I would like the Super Bowl to be Buffalo, Washington. However, I really do believe, and for basically the same reasons that Harry just said, I really think that Kansas City's going to find a way to win because they always do. Philly's going to find a way to win because they always do. And they're both going to be good games. There's going to be blowouts. It's going to, 4 or 5 minutes left in the fourth quarter. It's still going to be any team's game. But
seems like it always is.
Yeah. But I think that Kansas City pulls it out and goes to the Super Bowl, and Philadelphia pulls it out and goes to the Super Bowl. And you know what? I mean, hey, if Philly pulls it out and goes to Super Bowl and Buffalo goes, and if it's just an opposite of what we're talking about here, it would be poetic because it would be the only NFC East team that Buffalo hasn't faced in the Super Bowl.
What do you think, Pete?
I think as far as the NFC goes, I think look, the Eagles, there was a lot of talk this year about, they're just a team that wins. And we talked about their late season collapse last year and wasn't going to happen again. Right. And Sirianni was arguing with fans and doing some stupid stuff. And a lot of people are calling for his head this season. Yeah. But they are just the team that keeps winning.
He's just acting presidential.
Yeah, well, he's gearing up for a cabinet position. Secretary of Sports.
You're gonna send him over to England with
Secretary of Morale.
Yeah, send him over to England to run the England division. But look, they just keep winning, and they're deep, and they got an offensive line, and it's hard to bet against that. Yeah. I think the Chiefs are sort of in that same boat. If you look at the numbers, and there's been a lot of talk about this, the Chiefs in general are not as good as they were last year. Patrick Mahomes' numbers are down a little
And they
bit
weren't as
from where
good
they
as
were
they
last
were
year.
in years prior to that. Last year, they weren't as good as they were
Right.
previous years. Yeah.
But they, bless you,
Thank
but
you.
they just keep winning. And it's hard to bet against that. I think the Eagles win, but I think the Bills win.
Mm-hmm. I hope you're right.
I think the Bills are on a mission, and I think I agree with you. They didn't look great, but I think they are good enough to take advantage of a Chiefs team that is not as good. And if the refs don't get in the way too much, then I think the Bills can win this. So I'm gonna go Eagles Bills.
Nice. One quick thing.
Rooting for the Commanders, though.
I don't know how many weeks ago was it that the Commanders and Eagles played for the second time in the season? Was it 2 weeks ago? 3 weeks ago?
3 weeks ago.
3 weeks ago.
Mm-hmm.
I didn't watch that game when it was on because it wasn't on here, but I was on the NFL Network. I think I woke up and it was on, and I started watching it. And I wound up watching a good chunk of that game, especially the second half. The way in which the Commanders came back and won that game, that was the moment when I knew, oh shit, there's something going on here. Because if you were to back up the tape of that game, even to the third quarter, the Eagles were high-fiving and celebrating, but the Commanders just kept playing. And at the end of that game, there was a look on some of the Philadelphia Eagles players' faces. I don't think they're especially happy to have to play Washington again in this championship game.
No, I don't think so.
I think the Commanders are in their head a little bit. And that's the only thing I'll say is that game, while you could say, okay, they played before Buffalo beat Kansas City in the regular season. That game, though, because of where it was and when it was in the season, that was the wake-up call to say, hey, look, guess what, guys? We're right on your doorstep. And if you don't look now, we're going to pass you. So
now, whether that's going to be a real wake-up call for the Eagles, or if they're going to look at that and go, yeah, it was kind of an anomaly. They won, but we're still the better team. We let them win. We lost that when they didn't win it. If they take that approch, then
go back and look at the looks on their faces after that game. That was a oh shit. This isn't just a hot rookie who's able to keep it close. This is a team. This is a team that can beat us.
Right, but whether that stayed with them is my point. Because you can justify it and you can look back at it, and you can look at the mistakes you made and go, "Oh yeah, okay."
I think it stayed
really
with them.
Not as good as it. I don't.
The question is, will it be a motivator? I don't think it was a lack of motivation that is why the Eagles lost that game. I just think that because the game was the duration that it was, Washington just beat them, and it was a comeback win for sure. But it wasn't like, oh, we're going to let them back in the game because we're not playing. No, it wasn't an NBA 20-point comeback. It was oh shit, this team's really good.
Yeah. Well, if Washington somehow does make it to the Super Bowl, make it past Philly, it'll be the first time in history that a rookie quarterback got to the Super Bowl.
Yeah,
and there's only been 7 second-year quarterbacks. There's only been 7 second-year quarterbacks that have made it to the Super Bowl, and only 4 of those have won it. That's Kurt Warner, Tom Brady, Ben Roethlisberger, and Russell Wilson. But yeah, no.
It's a tall order. But you know what? The football gods, they love history. They love to see history made, but not as much as the baseball gods, I don't think. But so maybe we'll see it. I think it's going to be really close. I would love to see the Commanders win. I think the Eagles they're too good.
Yeah.
But I think the Bills are going to beat the Chiefs.
I think whoever his name is eluding me right now, but Sam Cosmi, is that his name? The guard for the Commanders. I think that's an unfortunate loss for them. I think that's going to be big.
Yeah.
So, we'll see.
All right. There you go, folks.
Quick couple other football notes. Mainly Pete, but both of you, how do you feel about that hire for the Jets? Aaron Glenn.
You want me to go first?
I do.
I love Aaron Glenn. How can you be a Jets fan and not love Aaron Glenn? And hopefully he will make a great NFL coach one day.
Mm-hmm.
But
However,
this is not the hire the Jets should be making.
Yeah.
Don't bring in another neophyte defensive coordinator.
Mm-hmm.
Much as I love Aaron Glenn, if you want to bring him in as your defensive coordinator, that'd be fine. You need an experienced coach. Doesn't have to be a Super Bowl winning coach, not some retread with a losing record, but it's got to be somebody who's done this before. This can't be a first-time head coach.
Mm.
And I wish Aaron Glenn all the luck in the world, and I hope that I am wrong, like I maybe have never hoped I am wrong in the past.
Mm-hmm.
But I don't think this is the right hire.
I on that note, well, you know what? No, I'll say this right now. The last time the Jets hired a head coach with experience was probably the worst coach they've hired ever. Well, at least one of the worst coaches they've hired ever. And that, of course, was Mr. Adam Gase.
Was it Gase, yeah.
Gase, yeah. So,
but he was high all the time.
Right.
We know from that press conference.
Right. So
whatever it takes.
Him aside, before him, the last time before that, the Jets hired a coach with head coaching experience in the NFL. You got to go all the way back to Bill Parcells.
Yeah.
Every coach the Jets have hired since in this century has had no head coaching experience. None. Right. And of all 22 head coaches in the Jets history, only 4 or 5 of them have had head coaching experience. All of them have been neophytes. So there's
and we see, I mean, with the exception of Ryan,
right?
We see a long list of failures.
Mm-hmm.
You know,
it's a lot of teams.
Here, probably the worst head coach in the Jet, or at least again one of the worst, depending on where you want to rank him up against Gase, is Rich Kotite. Right? He actually had head coaching experience. He was the head coach of the Eagles for 4 years before the Jets.
The Jets have made some really bad decisions. I mean, the Giants have too, and a lot of other teams have. But the Jets are maybe up there all-time worst head coaching decisions in the history of any NFL organization.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, it's just they've picked some losers over the years.
Mm-hmm.
Having said that, I don't think this is going to be a top 10 finish for I think the Jets picked the wrong Detroit coordinator.
You think the Bears picked the right one?
Yeah. And to your point about them having to pick an experienced coach,
I don't think Ben Johnson was ever going to the Jets, though.
No. I'm just saying he's going to be a good. Mm-hmm. The Bears are a tough place to go and become an offensive-minded coach, but there's something about that guy, and I like the way he kind of laid down the law in his press conference the other day. Kind of like that. Tell me who is experienced and actually available.
You know what? I don't know. That's not my job.
I know.
If the Jets want to pay me, I'll do the research.
But it is my job because I think about it every year with the Giants. And you know what? There's
there's nobody.
Look, what do I know? Because the best coach in the history of the NFL has been sitting out there for a year and a half and no one's hired him. So what do I know? But I don't think there's any super.
And rumor has it that he actually called Woody Johnson and asked about the trade.
I don't think.
But his son said no. So
I don't think there's anybody available that
his Madden rating was too low.
Yeah, who seems to be
right.
Who seems to be a good option for this? Now look, Mike Vrabel's getting another chance.
Let me throw these names past you. Would you have both of you? Would you have thought? Would you think this is a better hire than Aaron Glenn? Brian Flores.
No, I think Brian Flores is horrible.
Okay,
sorry,
I'm throwing it past you, Pete.
If there's no one out there with experience that we consider good, then I mean, if the Jets are taking the approach of they want to bring someone in and as a coordinator and groom them for the head coach, someone like Aaron Glenn, let's say, then Brian Flores might be a good interim. Might be a good interim. But no, I don't think he's the answer that's going to.
Let me ask you this.
Two.
Let me throw another name out there. Two, yeah.
Okay.
Then you fire his
Then you
ass
fire
and
his ass.
promote the defensive coordinator.
And then you go interim again, and you go interim again.
The New York interims.
Yeah.
Let me throw
How
another
many
name out.
games in a season? You give him 30 games.
The interim decade.
Let me
32
throw another,
now.
let me throw another name out there
34.
for you.
I'm sorry, 34.
Let me throw another name out there for
Who
you.
else?
John Gruden.
You know,
I'd love to have John Gruden. Why not?
I wouldn't. I think Gruden's a clown.
Kenny coached up.
I think, yeah, Kenny. I think he had
I
one
think
good
the time
year
away
in the
I think
90s, and he has not been successful since.
Well,
I think the
early
time away
2000s, we won the Super Bowl
okay,
with
whatever.
that coach, yeah.
maybe mellowed him a little bit.
I don't. He's
Well, he's having fun on Barstool Sports with Frank the Tank now. So I mean,
yeah,
he's enjoying himself.
that think tank of fucking.
Just get him on this show with us.
Yeah.
And then the other name I was going to throw by you, and Harry brought it up already. Why would you not at least make an offer to Belichick?
Can I answer that?
He could say no. Why would you not even fathom that? Are you still butthurt from 25 years ago?
Here's what it is. Okay. The last number of years Belichick had, I'll say it this way, because this is not a criticism of Belichick. It's a criticism of the league. It is a players' league, and his generation of players has passed. And you, Pete, and I are too old to get into the mindset of what these kids need nowadays. The players run the league, and a Bill Belichick is never going to have a chance to coach in the NFL again. I hate to say it. Because
there's also the fact that he's coaching in North Carolina. So
that's what I'm saying. But before that,
you'd have to lure him away from.
There's a reason why he went to North Carolina.
Right. But I mean, that to me,
his girlfriend needed tuition.
That wasn't his first choice.
Right, but I think that rules him out. He's not going to leave there before he ever does anything.
No,
for a chance to jump back to the NFL.
I think he absolutely will. You know why? Because one of the reasons why he took the North Carolina job, which is the reason he would take any job, is he wants to make sure his son has a job after him. And that's why he said yes to North Carolina, because not only did they meet all of his conditions, but his transition plan is in place with his coked up son coming up right behind him. So that's part of it.
Well, that's fine. That's nothing like a little nepotism. But I mean, look, he might also be sick of the NFL.
He's not.
I don't know. He
the
might
NFL
not be
is
happy with the way the NFL is, and for the reasons that you just stated. Right. Maybe he's out of touch. Maybe it's not the same league. And
he would want nothing. He would have wanted nothing more than after Brady left to have had success and broken Shula's record, and probably at least won one more Super Bowl. But he didn't. He tanked and went downhill very hard. And look, I would hire him, but I'm not a GM for an NFL team right now, or an owner of an NFL team. I just think that all you hear is that, especially with the Aaron Glenn rollout, is that, man, he's really good with the players. 24th in the league in defense when he had all his best players. One of the reasons why maybe the Lions aren't played for the Super Bowl, but he's good with the players.
Yeah. And to your point, John, I don't know why you wouldn't at least make him an offer.
Yeah.
Or maybe they did and it just didn't get reported. But yeah, you have to reach out to him. Yeah. Whether he's truly not interested in coming back to the NFL, or whether he's just going to stay at North Carolina for a few years and make sure his son has a job, or whatever it is, you have to reach out to him.
Gotcha.
So along those lines, let me throw a name at you. This is going to be part of the. Well, now this is just sort of in the notes. I got a big football. Are they for real? But so I'll ask you guys as Giant fans. Not so much should the Jets have maybe reached out, but did Antonio Pierce get a raw deal in Vegas? I mean, they fired everybody. right? They fired their quarterbacks coach. They fired their offensive line coach. They fired their offensive coordinator. One and done for him, a guy that everybody seemed to love, that his players seemed to love him, and the Raiders just obviously weren't very talented and very good, but did he get a raw deal? Was this the plan for the Raiders all along? Maybe they have somebody else in mind that they couldn't get last year.
I think Antonio Pierce will have another shot, and I think it's going to be in a better situation than the Raiders. But I think that it's a lot of new ownership there, and I think they just wanted him out. I think Antonio Pierce might be better as a coordinator position. I don't necessarily think he's the best game manager out there. And I think he got off to a good start with the Raiders, but they're kind of a team that underperformed, in my opinion. Mm-hmm. They've had some instability. He wasn't given the best, personnel. There's been a lot of change in that team at quarterback over the years, but they had some talent there, and it just seems like they've been
They're not making the most of it.
They're not making the most of it. Yeah. And unlike Tampa Bay, or unlike, the Raiders remind me of Jacksonville, or they remind me of the Dolphins, where, they've got some players. They just can't seem to win games. And
yeah, go ahead, finish.
No, I mean, that's kind of my thoughts on that.
I honestly
tough division too. Tough division.
It's a very tough division, clearly, right? But I think the biggest, certainly not the far from the only, but I think the biggest problem that the Raiders have is the same problem that the Cowboys have.
Mm-hmm. Weird owner.
Weird. Get out of the way.
Yeah, that's flip a coin for.
What's his name makes. What's his name makes
Mark Davis.
Mark Davis makes
Jerry Jones.
Jerry Jones seem normal. Right?
A little bit, yeah.
I mean, that should be an entire episode. Who's weirder, Mark Davis or Jerry Jones? I'm gonna side with Jerry on this one. Which of those two would you feel comfortable having a drink with without anybody else around? I think Jerry Jones would be a hoot.
It would be Jerry Jones, but
I think Mark Davis would be creepy as hell.
I think you could not take your eyes off of your glass with Mark Davis around.
Exactly, 100%. But here's the thing, though. Jerry Jones is living in the 90s.
That's fine. That's all right.
Mark Davis is living in Neverland.
Yeah, he's living in a weird 13th month of 1973.
Right.
Where Pete Rose's haircut,
a bad version of Pete Rose's haircut,
Brett Musburger's suit had a baby.
Oh yeah, I heard it here first. All right, let's. All right, a couple other things real quick here. Does Prime take the Dallas job? No, I don't think so either.
This is Arthur for real.
No, this is not Arthur for real.
All right.
This is just notes that Arthur for real is after that. Titans GM Rand Carthen fired. He deserved it, right?
Yeah.
They just haven't done anything.
Although I kind of feel bad. That was an organization that was pretty damn good for a number of years in a row.
They're getting into the playoffs every
year. They lost their best player in Eddie George
with Ryan Tannehill.
And then you think, all right, they're going to be. They finally are where you thought they were going to be for the last 5 years. They were an elite team for 6-7 years in a row there.
Yeah.
I don't think they're that far off from a rebuild from being back there. I think there's something decent in that organization.
They're not Jacksonville, which is just chaos.
Yeah. Things are changing too.
But Jacksonville has a quarterback at least, although when you look at the numbers, you can easily make a case that what's his name is a bust. Can't think of his name right now. The Jacksonville QB.
Trevor Lawrence.
Trevor
Lawrence. Yeah, you can say Trevor Lawrence is a bust for a number one pick. But last rumors now of Sam Darnold leaving Minnesota. None of us think he's going to stay, right? They're not going to pay him big bucks when they've got J.J. McCarthy.
Well, here's
they're
the only.
going to spend the Darnold money on building around McCarthy.
Yeah, 100%. Right? And the interim quarterback, if they need a starter for a few games before J.J. McCarthy's ready to go, it's going to be Daniel Jones. And
right. And that's so now they're saying McCarthy Darnold might go to the Raiders.
Yeah, I can see that.
I think Darnold's value has dipped. I think you can get him for far less than what you might have, and it could be a shorter term. Yep. If I was Minnesota, I would actually sign him if he would sign to a 1 year with a player option or something like that.
They could tag him.
They could tag him. I'm not sold on J.J. McCarthy.
Well, nobody's seen him.
Yeah, I'm not. I wasn't sold on him in college.
Well, yeah, but I mean,
they drafted him with the intent of making.
All right, so let me ask you this:
he would have been the starter if Darnold had a great year.
Hold on. You went to within one game of the NFC Championship. Okay, what was the Vikings' record? 15-2, 14-3,
14-3,
14-3.
Right.
What other quarterback goes 14-3, and you don't want him back?
The guy who is potentially exposed the last 2 weeks.
Again, though.
As he's Sam Darnold, and when things aren't perfect, he's Sam Darnold of the Jets.
Yeah, you're not going to be 14-3 anytime within the next 5 years with J.J. McCarthy. Heard it here first.
Well, you can't say that.
Yeah, I know that for a fact.
You
know it for a fact.
It's more probable that you're right than wrong, but you can't say that. You don't know
for a fact.
But here's the thing: we're talking about Minnesota. Well, we're talking about Minnesota. We're talking about Minnesota here. Minnesota had good teams with Sam Darnold, with
Kirk
Cousins, with Case Keenum. Okay,
yeah.
It's for some reason it's plug and play at quarterback for this team.
You know what? They're good at drafting?
Offensive lineman, defensive lineman,
defense. Well, specifically more on the skill player sides. There's nobody better at drafting running backs and wide receivers. Than the Vikings and tight ends. Throw them in there too.
Yeah.
Down in the second, third, fourth, fifth, sixth rounds. They get them.
True story.
Yeah,
You're right. It is more of a plug and play. If there's ever been a systems quarterback, it's probably Sam Darnold.
A system for a systems quarterback.
Right. Yeah.
It's Minnesota. And if there's ever been a systems quarterback, it's Sam Darnold. Yeah.
For the first time in many years, I would say that Sam Darnold might be the best Kirk Cousins out there.
Yeah. But I think he's going to get. I think he's going to get more money from somebody else. Yeah, I think he's going to get more than Minnesota wants to pay him.
Yeah, you might be right. I think you just go right ahead and start McCarthy. Then you don't need to.
Well, I only meant that for injury wise. If he's
and McCarthy's also what 34. So I mean, he's
JJ.
It's 36. All right, last question here. Mike Tomlin.
Mm-hmm.
I know the Steelers aren't going to get rid of him, but should they? I mean, enough already? No, we're just going to keep going and losing in the playoffs anytime we get there in the first round. Is that really what you want from the Steelers?
When I was watching the Steelers,
we have the culture, we have the process and all that, but we can't win playoff games. So what is the ultimate goal here? And I'm not advocating for it. I'm just asking. These are the arguments for it. He's had enough time. He hasn't gotten it done.
Mm-hmm.
I think that he is, this is a weird comparison. I feel like he's the Aaron Boone of the NFL with not as much talent. Okay. And maybe a little bit more control over what he gets. But having Russell Wilson and Justin Fields is kind of like having Giancarlo Stanton and Gary Sanchez. That's here. We got you some talent. Go for it, And granted, he had a lot to say at that. I feel like he's such an institution there that you have to give him one more shot. And I think they have to switch to Fields over Wilson.
100%.
Yeah, I would agree with that.
100%.
But the
Steelers.
You can't deny there is no coach that can do with what he has better than Mike Tomlin. No one. And yes, they fall short in the playoffs, but you go out and get him. Look,
Well,
other
that's the
than
thing.
Ben Roethlisberger, he's never had a
Right, and he won with Big Ben.
Yeah, and then
He won
they
a
had
Super
what?
Bowl. Got to 2 and
he
won
hasn't
one.
won without him. So is that a criticism of the teams they put around him?
Yes,
they just haven't had
yes.
an all-time great
And of him,
all-time great quarterback.
And of him, because Tomlin's arrogant enough to think that he could look. I'm telling you, sometimes these coaches and the guys that are on the field are not the best judge of talent. I know that sounds bizarre for me to say, but Tyreek Hill thought Tua Tagovailoa was a better quarterback than Patrick Mahomes. Okay. They don't always know better. Okay. And I think Tomlin has had a little bit too much say in personnel. And I think they need to go out and get, and if Tomlin has a quarterback, it's just somebody who doesn't turn the ball over, but who can make the big plays when they need to, and that they can invest back in their running game. I think the Steelers are right back in an AFC championship game in 2 or 3 years. I really do. I would not, again, because there's nobody out there that's better than Mike Tomlin. That's available.
But aren't there other? But if Mike Tomlin never gets you a playoff win since Big Ben, then what?
I think another coach doesn't even get you to the playoffs.
Yeah, I think that's the trade-off, though.
Yeah,
that's I mean, look at the teams he's had to work with, and he winds up with, even if he doesn't get you to the playoffs, much less a playoff win, he's gotten you a winning record every year. Yeah, with nothing sometimes. Since Big Ben.
Maybe Buck Showalter is a better comparison. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Like, I just feel like
doesn't Aaron Boone have a brother?
He's always yes, he does. His dad was. He's always given like, here's one decent plate and like here's a bunch of random shit. Now make a dinner out of it.
They're not giving him enough.
No,
really.
Ever since they lost, who was the crazy running back that went to the Jets? Who was great, but Tomlin said, "You're crazy. Fuck off. I don't care."
Le'Veon Bell.
Le'Veon Bell.
Yeah.
Look, there's no other team that knows how to draft crazy receivers. I mean, they are right there as far as drafting the craziest of all time.
Mm-hmm.
But he is old school, where he's just like, I don't give a fuck how good you are. If you're going to be a shithead, go. And so he'd rather have. They just haven't had the dominant defensive players that they've had in years past. But I don't think they're that far off. I don't think they're that far off. If, like I said before with the Jets, there was somebody else who was really good, who was out there, I'd say, yeah, okay, that makes a lot of sense. But for the Steelers, I don't think there's a better option than Mike Tomlin. And in fact, I kind of hope that there's somebody on their staff that they could groom to take over for him.
Well, there you go.
Be a way to go, I think.
That's true. He's been at it longer than
most.
His predecessor. Really, John?
Big Chin McGee.
Big Chin McGee.
Cowhead.
Bill Cowher.
Bill Cowher.
But they both went to 2 Super Bowls and won one.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Just Bill Cowher did the other way. He went to one, lost it, and then he went back to another one and won it. Tomlin did the other way, won it, and then went and lost it. But it's been 13 years since 14 years since the one he went to and lost.
And they each won one with Roethlisberger.
They each won one with Roethlisberger. Yes.
Which, I mean, I don't know.
They each won one with Roethlisberger. Tomlin lost one with Roethlisberger. Cowher lost one with Neil O'Donnell.
Yeah, and I think Bill Cowher's tenure was far shorter than Tomlin's, right?
Cowher was like, I think, 89 to 04.
Okay.
And so that was what? That's 15, 16 seasons, and then this was Tomlin's 20th season. So
Coward seemed shorter, maybe because they had more down years with him.
He left. Actually, no, it was 05 because they won the Super Bowl.
Whatever.
06. So 17 seasons, and this coming up is Tomlin's 20th.
They don't give up on coaches very easily.
No, it's admirable. But...
I feel like I'm guessing Tomlin's been more consistent with getting to the playoffs. He's also been more consistent with losing in the playoffs.
Mm-hmm.
So I don't know.
Yeah. No, whatever. All right. Do we have an Are They For Real?
Yeah, let's roll it. We have an Are They For Real?
Let's roll the Are They For Real. There we go.
Do we have the Are They For Real short theme?
What is real?
What is real? How do you define real? If you're talking about what you can feel, what you can smell, what you can taste and see, then real is simply electrical signals interpreted by your brain.
Pretty sure none of that's real.
You're not real.
For real, for real, for real. Yeah.
Are you for real? For real? For real? For real?
Are they for real?
What is real?
That's the
All
show.
right. Well, we were going to talk about firings, but we kind of did that heading into Are They For Real? But I have an interesting question for you guys.
Yeah.
We're going to talk about impactful players for both the Giants and the Jets.
All right.
I'm going to give you two names, and I want you to tell me who's more for real. Now, with the Giants, it's easy to say Malik Neighbors. And I'll give you his number.
He's not one of them.
No, he is one of them.
Okay.
So 170 targets, 109 receptions, 1,204 yards, 11 yards per carry, 7 touchdowns. The other name I'm going to throw at you is not a receiver. His name is Brian Burns.
Mm-hmm.
And he is a linebacker. Let me find his numbers here. And Brian Burns played and started in 17 games, 8.5 sacks, 42 solo tackles, 29 assists for a combination of 71, 17 tackles for a loss, 18 quarterback hits, 2 forced fumbles.
Mm-hmm. Who's more for real?
Given the Giants and where they ended up and what they were, who was more for real, i.e. more impactful for the New York Football Giants?
I think Brian Burns is a fantastic hire, fantastic signing. And he's right there. And this isn't an easy response, but I think you got to give it to Malik Neighbors just because, Brian Burns
was the standout. He was the standout on a lousy team. And he did it as a rookie, right out of college. So that's where I'm at. Right, that's fair enough. I didn't even add that.
Brian Burns is a veteran, signed. People thought the Giants kind of overpaid for him. I think he lived up to what he wants. Malik Neighbors will be disgruntled and gone in 2 years, but he'll be good.
This past season,
he'll be good while he was there. Now, Neighbors was obvious. The Giants would be nothing without him.
Mm-hmm. There you go.
Fair enough. All right. So let's go to the Jets, and I'll give you two names here. One of them is Garrett Wilson. 17 games played and started, 154 targets, 101 receptions, 1,104 total yards, 10.9 per catch, 7 touchdowns, and 60 catches for a first down.
Mm-hmm.
The other, also a receiver, Devontae Adams. 14 games played and started, 141 targets, so 13 less targets, 85 catches, so 16 less catches, 1,063 yards, so about 40 yards less. Yards per catch, 12.5, 8 touchdowns to 7, and 49 first downs to 60. Now, again, you can look at the numbers and go, Garrett had more. But Adams was pretty close with a somewhat significant lighter workload. Of course, he wasn't there for as many games.
Well, Adams had more per game.
Yeah, but Adams also didn't play 14. Those 14 games he played, that was the whole season. He didn't play 14 with the Jets, though, did he?
Yeah.
I thought some of them were. I thought some of them with the Raiders.
Well, 3 of them were with the Raiders.
Yeah.
He's been with the Jets since the end of September. I thought it was after that. I thought he was out for a couple of games with the Raiders. That's why he. Maybe I'm wrong. I'm thinking back to it. Maybe I'm wrong. But either way, I see your point. Regardless of it, even with those numbers, I'm going to say that, and I'm going to tell you this right now. Even if those numbers are right, all for the Jets. So I'll just go off of that.
First game with the Jets was October 20th.
Okay.
Let me see if I can find this Jets number.
Devontae Adams played 11 games with the New York Jets.
All right, here we go. 114 targets, 67 catches, 854 yards,
7 touchdowns.
7 touchdowns, 39 first down catches.
All right. Who was more impactful, or who is more for real? Is what I'm saying. Devontae Adams is an amazing player. I'm going to say Garrett Wilson. I'm going to tell you why. Once Devontae Adams got to the Jets, Garrett Wilson was forgotten about. All right, for all intents and purposes, Aaron Rodgers was doing nothing but looking at his buddy. You know, Garrett Wilson got. I almost said.
Don't say Zach.
I almost said Zach. Yeah, Garrett Wilson.
Wade Wilson
got a lot less targets and did a lot more with them when he did get them. So I'm gonna go with Garrett Wilson only because that once Devontae Adams got there, he was completely favored over Garrett Wilson. So
I don't think he was favored, but it
favored by Aaron Rodgers.
Well, if you look at, I was just looking at the targets that they got. It seemed to be pretty even. Here's what Garrett Wilson did for Devontae Adams: is Devontae Adams could be a number 2 for the first time in his career. Mm-hmm. And you don't get as many double teams. You don't get as many, nickel action on you. So, and yes, Rodgers, of course, was going to throw to him a little bit more, but he did spread it around. They helped each other, and I think they're better together. And I hope, we'll see. Devontae Adams is getting up there in years. I think Wilson's numbers went down, but I think his impact on the game went up when Devontae Adams went there. So I'll say that Wilson was more impactful, but they're better together on a team.
Fair enough.
Their individual numbers might not reflect that, but you got to give it to Devontae Adams and the mess that was New York. And, the fact that he had 7 touchdowns in 11 games compared to 7 touchdowns that Wilson had in 17. There you go.
Yeah, that's kind of my point.
At the end of the day, it's how many times do you tap your feet in the end zone?
It's true. That is true. So, I concur with that. So yeah, I do think Garrett Wilson was more impactful, but I think Harry's right. They did help each other greatly, and because when the focus was on Garrett Wilson, you went to Adams, and vice versa. So, there you go.
Hopefully, they'll both be back catching passes from Sam Darnold.
Right.
Yeah, that's entirely possible. All right, last one. We'll call this one who deserves it more. So who's less for real? So which of these head coach firings
deserves it.
deserves yeah. So we talked about some of these, but I'll throw them in there. So we got McCarthy.
Okay.
We've got Antonio Pierce. We've got Doug Peterson from Jacksonville. We've got Gerard Mayo from the Pats, and we got Mr. Saleh from the Jets.
Of those 5 names, who deserves it the most?
Yep. Who deserves the axe the most? McCarthy, Pierce, Peterson, Mayo, or Saleh?
Well, I'm going to say
Peterson.
I'm going to say Peterson too, because McCarthy.
Because everyone hates him and he's a jerk at Jacksonville.
Yeah.
Well, the other ones I feel sorry for him because they were brought into situations that were just messy and kind of no win.
Right. McCarthy
Jacksonville was messy and no win.
No, but they had some talent. And they went to the playoffs 2 years ago, didn't they?
Look at it this way. Pierce, that was his first season.
Yeah.
I would not including interim time last year, year before.
Right.
Mayo, first season. Saleh, raw deal, should not have been fired when he was.
Should not have been a head coach.
But he was there, what he was doing, they didn't do anything differently. And who knows, they might have won more games with him staying than they did with Olberg. Right.
Still not good, but yeah.
And still not good, but not as egregious. And McCarthy, they just couldn't agree on amount of years. He didn't.
McCarthy actually didn't have a bad season considering how the Cowboys ended up.
Right. He didn't. So of those 5 names, definitely Peterson, because he had time with the number 1 prospect from
and a big
years
say.
ago,
and
a big say in that, and a big say in a lot of things, and just didn't do dick. I made it to the playoffs last year and lost in the.
I think Peterson's time in the NFL is up.
Yeah, it's enough of the visor. Time to hang up the visor.
Time to hang up the visor.
Let me ask you this: between Mayo and Pierce, who got more of a raw deal?
Mayo.
Pierce. Well, I think equal. I don't think either of them were given a chance. I thought Mayo was like sort of like a sacrificial lamb.
Yeah.
Pierce at least.
But he was a guy everybody on the team liked, though, right? He's
of course, and he was
something
they were super excited about it.
Yeah.
I think the reason
they have no talent around him, and look what he was. I mean, I don't know.
I agree with Harry. They both were about equally as far as the raw deal goes. The reason I would put Mayo over Pierce is because the only reason Mayo got fired is because Mike Vrabel was coming in. If Mike Vrabel was still coaching in Tennessee, Jared Mayo would still be the coach of the Patriots. Period. So that makes it more of a real.
And by the way, what has Mike Vrabel done as a coach?
He got to the playoffs a lot.
He's got a winning record, I think, right?
Got a winning record.
Not by much.
Did well.
This is all it takes.
Mm-hmm.
Well, yeah. I mean,
plus he can come in as the sixth linebacker, right, when they need him to.
Right. Yeah. Exactly.
He's going to be a player coach.
Exactly.
Only.
It looks like he still can, kind of.
Mm-hmm.
He could probably
couple plays.
The field goal rushing team.
Maybe field goal kicker, based on how the kickers are this year.
I could be wrong on this. I don't think I am. Who was the last player coach? It wasn't head coach by any means, but last player coach.
Newt Rockne.
No. More recent than that.
Was it?
It's in the 70s.
Tom Landry.
Oh, the guy for Oakland, right?
Tom Landry.
No.
Yeah. You're close with Tom Landry though.
Fred Biliknikov?
Because Tom Landry was his head coach.
Tom Landry was his head. Roger Staubach.
No.
So it was a Dallas Cowboy player or Giants?
Dallas Cowboy player.
Dallas Cowboy player was the last player coach.
He was a coach, but he wasn't a head coach.
A coach. It wasn't Tony Dorsett, was it?
No, he's gone to 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 Super Bowls. Or he had gone to 5 Super Bowls. Didn't win any of them, but went to 5 Super Bowls.
So he must have played for the Bills.
Yeah. Was the Giants head coach for 4 years too.
Oh, Ray Hanley. Ray Perkins. Ray Perkins.
No.
I don't know. Who the fuck cares?
Dan Reeves.
Dan Reeves.
Dan Reeves. What was his coaching job?
I believe he was a linebackers coach. I believe he was. Memory serves. I'm not even looking at it. I'm just going by memory. So, and the last player coach, I'm pretty sure of this too. The last player coach in Major League Baseball was with the Mets. Was with the Mets in the 70s as well, later 70s.
No, Rose did it after that.
Did he?
Yeah.
Okay. All right. Well, then the last player coach for the Mets was this one, and it was Joe Torre.
Oh, I didn't know he was a player coach.
Yeah.
Interesting factoid.
Mm-hmm. So,
anyway. I feel like baseball, you could still kind of pull that off.
Yeah, you could.
Yeah,
to a point.
Who would be the best candidate for a player coach in the next 5 years? I don't know. Maybe Albert Pujols.
Yeah. All right.
Or it'll probably be Ohtani. He'll be the first coach that doesn't speak English.
Yeah. He's a pitcher, designated hitter, coach, and a GM. Why not? Throw it all in there.
Well, you know what? Speaking of
anybody can balance the books, it's Ohtani.
But as long as he doesn't have his assistant doing
now, he's going to bring him in to make sure everything gets.
Speaking of baseball, though, and Ichiro, the Hall of Fame class is out.
Yeah,
CC, Ichiro, and somebody else. I don't know who else. I forget.
Ichiro got in. Billy Wagner got in.
Billy Wagner, yeah.
Billy Wagner, good player.
And hold on.
He was Lindsay Wagner's.
CC, Billy Wagner, and
he married Lindsay Wagner, didn't he? took her name.
Took her name, yeah.
He should have taken her bionic arm.
She didn't have a bionic arm. She had bionic hearing
and legs.
Well,
right. She could.
Some would say
that's one way to describe them. But I just want to say about Ichiro, one of the few Yankees I ever liked. And let me ask you guys this:
all 2 years he was there.
Yeah.
That's still.
Yeah.
If Major League Baseball had when he was starting out, the hunger for Japanese players that they have now. Imagine if he played almost his whole career.
Then the Dodgers would have won the last 17.
I think they were
World
just
Series.
as tasty back then.
My point is, do you think he might hold a couple of records now if he played his entire career with or most of his career with Major League Baseball instead of the first?
100%. Absolutely.
I mean, that guy was an incredible hitter even at his age when he came to the league.
Do you think what? He would be going to 100%? Is that what you said?
If he played almost all of his career in the majors,
Yeah.
Japan, he might hold some records, right? He might have a new.
He was an incredible player. He reminds me of an even better version of Rod Carew. That's who he kind of reminded me of a lot. Carew played a bunch of different positions. We kind of know him towards the latter part of his career in the 80s, but Ichiro was still even towards a great outfielder, great base runner. Just his on base percentage was insane. Didn't strike out. He's everything baseball is not today. As far as contact hitters out there, you got, Kirby Puckett, Tony Gwynn, Rod Carew, and Ichiro.
Yeah.
I don't think there's, maybe Wade Boggs, but it's a lost art for him. You don't see it very much anymore.
That's true.
Because he had very little power. But he didn't have, it wasn't like he had none. And, but man, he could put the bat on the ball. And then once he got on base, he was a monster and a great defensive player.
Defensive player.
Great defensive player.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
One of the best baseball players I've ever seen in person in my life.
Yeah. And Beltran was 19 votes short. And
He'll get in.
David Wright got 8% of the vote. So he actually will remain on the ballot. So I don't know if he'll ever get in, but Beltran will get in. But here's a question. Here's a quick question for you. When Beltran does get in, who does he go in as? Does he go in as a Met? Does he go in as a Cardinal? Does he go in as a Yankee?
Definitely not a Yankee, I don't think. I think he goes. I think
he goes in as a Met. I do.
Really?
Yeah,
how many years did he play for the Mets?
The most he played for the Mets. Yeah.
Then you're probably right. I don't remember.
I mean, by a year or two more than.
Yeah. His best seasons were with St. Louis, though. Right?
I mean, he played. Didn't he play Houston too? Right? He played Houston.
I was going to say
Houston, then the Mets, then the Yankees,
Kansas City. He only played 1 year with Houston. He played for the Royals for a long time.
That was the Royals that he was with, yeah. So
and then the Mets, and then the Giants, St. Louis. He wasn't with St. Louis very long.
No, it's the end of his career, yeah.
Yeah.
So I think he was in as a Met. So it'll be his peace offering to the Mets fans that still can't stand the fact that he didn't swing at strike three.
He'll get booed by any Met fans there. He puts the Met cap on and gets booed.
Right.
He's a really consistent player.
Well, I mean, he works for the Mets. I mean, he's in the Mets front office right now. So
yeah,
I think it's between
another reason why I think he'll go in as a Met.
I think it's between the Mets and the Royals, and I think he'll pick the Mets. But he was rookie of the year with the Royals.
Yeah,
he was MVP. Well, he was an all-star with. I think that was the year maybe he was traded. I don't know.
Yeah. Well, we shall see. We shall see. And on the note of David Wright, though,
the bigger question is Beltran really an all-star? Really a Hall of Famer?
I think he did enough to get in there. I think there's.
I think if he plays today, his average is 225. He was a 278 hitter back in. Yeah, I don't know.
Yeah. And on that, to wrap up the Mets thing with David Wright, his number's getting retired this year. July 19th, I believe, is the date.
One of the most underrated baseball players, I think, of the last 25 years or so.
If he had gotten the World Series and played another few years, I think he'd be a lock to get home.
Yeah, injuries
screwed him
caught up to him.
Yeah, bad back.
Good player. There's a lot of guys that fall into that right category.
Mm-hmm.
Good,
and
4 or 5 great years, and then just no longevity.
Mm-hmm.
But also sort of definitely a role model guy.
100%.
You know, not because of the numbers, but because of the personality and the work ethic. And just the
Especially
person that he was.
following, when he played for the Mets, because it was after, the glory years of insanity.
Mhm.
But he was certainly a steady presence, that's for sure,
Yeah.
and a perennial superstar for him.
True story. All right. We have anything else?
I don't know. Anything interesting in
Pickleball,
hockey or basketball? Not really.
No, we can wrap up hockey and basketball after the next show.
Cruising along, right?
Yeah, we'll have the Super Bowl shows coming up, and then we'll cruise into hockey and get heavy into hockey and basketball.
We're not going to get heavy into hockey.
Well, heavy into basketball with a little bit of touch of hockey.
You go. You guys can talk about hockey on a special show.
On that note, that I did want to bring up a couple of things about the Mets and baseball. I'm not going to do that because it's too much. We'll go way too long. Pete and I, maybe you and I, when we do our test run of the new software, we can do a little
Mets corner.
A little Mets corner.
The Mets.
Yeah.
Mets. What's the Mets mascot's name? The Fanatic.
Mr. Met.
Mr. Met.
Mr. Met. The Philly Fanatic.
Oh, do we want to dress up?
We'll
have to dress up as Mrs. Met again.
I think you guys should both dress up as your best David Wright.
There you go.
If you guys were a famous New York Met, who would you be? That's a good question. People think about it. Watch the video and let us know who you think you would be.
Well,
John would definitely be Darryl Strawberry. Pete, I don't know. It's a tough one.
Maybe Big Cat.
Just
he could be black. I could be Hispanic.
There you go.
Certainly the belly matches.
Big sexy.
Bartolo Colon.
Yeah, I could be Cologne.
I'm definitely Cologne. Let's just face it, we're all Bartolo Colon.
Yeah, that's true too.
That's a good shirt to make up. Hey,
we're all Bartolo Cologne.
We're all Bartolo Cologne. We are all Bartolo Cologne.
That's funny. I'm making that shirt. Hey, we're all Bartolo Cologne.
With just a picture of him going, or his hat falling off.
This is mark my words.
Playing right now somewhere.
Mark my words. This is going to be the shirt of the summer. Putting it as a caption right here. A news broadcast today was talking about TikTok. And they had this on the screen. This is how they spell TikTok on the screen.
Oh,
nice.
All right.
I call it Tit Talk.
Yeah. For those of you just listening to the audio podcast, the news broadcast spelled it Titcock. Yeah, they reversed.
That's a better app. Trust
TikTok.
me.
TITKOK. Yeah.
TITKOK. Titcock. So yeah, you watch this summer. There's going to be 100 shirts. 100 companies making those Titcock shirts. Titcock.
Only Titcock's going to make it.
I know.
I only buy authorized Titcock merchandise.
Exactly. I guarantee you, somebody's already reserved the name and bought the website.
God, I hope so.
Yeah. Oh, I'll get a mug.
There you go.
What are you drinking? Just hold it up.
There you go. Titcock.
Titcock.
There you go. All right.
Not a fishing company.
We should probably sign off before this goes any further downhill.
Before it goes any further downhill, and we'll.
I thought we were done.
Yeah.
I thought we signed off 5 minutes ago.
Maybe on Friday we'll post it if we're going to do the Mets Corner Show. We'll probably do it on Friday, so look for that. Anyway, on that note, we will wrap up the show for today. I want to thank everybody for watching. If those of you just listening to the audio podcast, thank you for listening. Don't forget to visit our website, www.getonwithitpodcast.com. That's getonwithitpodcast.com. And please remember, like us and follow us on all of our social media, Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram. Just search for the Get On With It podcast. And of course, all of our shows are available on YouTube as well on the Logger Room channel. Remember, we go live with a video podcast on Facebook, YouTube, X, and Twitch every other Wednesday night around 7:30 p.m. Eastern Time. Tonight was a special early edition of that, but it doesn't matter. It's normally that time. For those of you who just want to listen to the audio podcast, you can do so on our audio host Spreaker, as well as anywhere that you can find audio podcasts. You find your audio podcast. And if you haven't done so already, please subscribe to one or more feeds, and you will never miss a show. Again, thanks for following along with us. Have a great rest of your week. Have a wonderful weekend. Enjoy championship weekend. The championship games this Sunday, and we will talk to you in a couple weeks, folks. Take care. Cheers.
Congratulations, Ohio State.
Yes,
Oh, yeah, we're a sports podcast.
Please,
Let's
I
talk
could
about
not
the-
care less.
Let's
I
talk
could
about.
not care less.
Let's talk about the
Couldn't
Mets.
care less. We'll talk about that in 2 weeks.
we'll talk about it in 2 weeks. Yeah. Yes.
With a fresh take.
Congrats.
Fresh take on college football.
Yeah, exactly. Congrats, Ohio State.
Stale take.
Go to hell, Ohio State.
Hi,
Hi, everybody.
But our 9-hour draft show.
Bye, everybody.
See you.